so am I supposed to be talking towards that?
No, whatever you want to do. I just want to
Okay.
get it in the archive,
Are we ready?
Yeah, it's recording
Okay.
and broadcasting.
Resume. 37 years as a member of Local 18, starting in 1974 in the 4-year apprenticeship. My uncle retired, being a mechanical instructor of said apprenticeship. I have a brother and cousin who also belong to Local 18. Approximately one half my work years spent in refineries and power plants. I have quite a few months on backhoes in refineries, also pickers up to 50-ton, carry decks, and to a lesser degree forklifts. I also run track holes, loaders, and dozers. I have experience with site preparation and site management and road work and have some mechanical ability. Have worked a couple of times as a boilermaker with experience in rigging and loading trucks. I can also push a crew and have had to on many of my own jobs. I also started in the antique business in 1973 and have dealt in antiques and old hardware ever since. From 1995 to 2005, I owned and operated a furniture hardware store on LaGrange Street. I cleaned up estates for 15 years for the Maumee Valley Liquidators and to a lesser degree for the Collector's Corner and a couple of smaller outfits. I can run a storeroom having a meticulous mind for parts. I still am in the antique hardware business and am a book dealer. I owned 5 storefronts and other property at one time and did most of the various maintenance myself. Did that blow out? Also, I'm a prolific writer, published and very involved in the local writing community. I can write in several forms and styles, but currently I specialize in historically based short stories, essays, and satires. I also do some drafting and map drawing. In school, I excelled in math, history, science, reading, but not so much in grammar and spelling. I have overcome that somewhat since.
No, they're kind of a little loud. You want
Okay,
any drink, any food?
this piece is called The Great Earthquake of Toledo, Ohio, and the ensuing fire that never was, but may as well have been, as set in the late 20th century. When I look at old pictures of downtown Toledo, listen to the stories, consider the memories, I become morose. I think of the once vibrant life, the living, pulsating heart of a central crossroads of America, countered with the decaying official attitudes, the urban denial of the interstate highway system, the clear cutting of our historical central business district, the saturated bombing of the very civilization our parents once knew. What we were able to avoid during World War II on this continent has since been achieved by our short-sighted city fathers on the backs of the very citizens they were sworn to protect. Our heritage has filled our landfills. To cherish the lives of our ancestors, we obliterate any notions that they ever existed and create sterile concrete bunkers without the soul of a lowly earthworm and predestine our succeeding generations to await the great earthquake and fire that they will never believe hadn't already happened. Considering identity theft. Once upon a time, in one of many associations with other elements, they got away with it. Used to carry in your wallet license, social security, and draft cards. Now everything you do leaves an imprint on the consumer conscious societal gluttons, receiving mail, using phones or computers, dropping your name and number everywhere you've ever been, like the errant fingerprint at the local murder scene. These everyday actions spread one thin, diluting, leaving us susceptible, often contaminated. We really are global creatures. Recently, after growing up, they got mine, or what was left of it, after smearing it around for 50 years or so, a suspended expired driver's license, sets of keys to buildings tore down and trucks towed away, $6 left in my checking account dormant for 3 years. The city billed me in excess of $250,000 for the demolition of my diminutive empire, even after I was kind enough to surrender $30,000 in a bankruptcy in which they never removed the liens. Hospital bills I had to stop payment on because of the now familiar lack of funds or insurance of any kind. Back property tax and the city's immoral, illegal liens that forbade me the ability to sell or even give away any of the property, even though there were offers on every parcel. 5 storefronts with 3 apartments, 4 houses with various outbuildings. After maybe 7 years of non-filing, the IRS in the state of Ohio want me, in spite of years of practically non-existent work and a useless but never officially given up vendor's license. Thousands in fines were paid, and that much more still due, and jail time was served with years more suspended. If I ever work for my stated social security number again, I'll just be working for those that stole my identity. They would be sure to take their cut. I was careful, never buying a car on credit or taking on a loan of any kind, bartering or paying cash for everything I'd ever owned. I never had a bank or a credit card or even bought a lottery ticket. Such a negative identity precludes positive credit ratings, and you become a really badly rated person. Shame on me for never borrowing the good old-fashioned American way. And what about my criminal record? The active arrest warrants and the warrant blocks which prevent renewing any license I've ever had, all because I once owned property. Due to fires, theft, demolition, and repeated moving, resulting eventually in homelessness, my smudged, disjointed paper trail has gotten so light it's half blown away. No regular income, and trading leaves few prints. While the theft has forced me underground, it hasn't quelled my voice. Oh, my picture's on there.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I hope you show other interested people down here this in case I don't get to read it to them actually myself.
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone's kind of still kind of
In the
recuperating
meeting?
from the. Yeah, it's the die down of the meeting, and they're all still very actively like conversating. But
So are you following this?
I'm in and out actually. But
Okay.
yeah, you know, go on.
Um, this group of writing, I read to a group of kids. I mean, this whole group, and is why I've selected this group. I have other stuff to do with the stock market, other stuff to do with some of Toledo's issues, other stuff that was written against them building the baseball stadium and tearing down buildings downtown when they could have built it over by the sports arena. Actually, that
I was just looking
great
at that today.
earthquake,
The fucking Huntington logo all over the fucking place.
that great earthquake of Toledo, Ohio, was built was solicited. That's not the right term. Somebody asked me to write a piece to be anti the baseball stadium, and he never published it. But I wrote 3 pieces for him, and I thought that was a very good piece. The great earthquake of Toledo, Ohio, and that was before they ripped down all my property. Even.
You ripped down your property.
Oh yeah, that's 6 buildings.
Oh my God.
7 years ago. But this was written in 1994, the day of Stony Ridge. I didn't go to Stony Ridge because this is eight handwritten pages, which this piece takes about 8 minutes
Stony
to read.
Ridge?
The flea market back in '94.
When you said Stony Ridge, I think about the Keith Stadler eviction, where they didn't leave the house.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Oh God, it's a good story.
But this, from 1994, before it was cool, this is better living through dumpster diving. When one is just a day laborer with a part of the year job, one must struggle and hustle to get above that street person level. There are people that don't want to live off the government, but resent busting their ass only to stand in line at the store buying reduced produce, day-old meat and cheese, and dented cans, glaring at the carts of the people waving food stamps and thinking, if only I could afford those cuts of meat, those processed foods, that many kids. Well, let me tell you, there are a few unofficial, time-proven methods where you can live and eat better, decorate your home and yourself without having to stand in line observing these typical welfare cases. Almost everyone starts as a kid wearing hand-me-downs, picking fruit in season, finding some broken toy up the street in the neighbor's trash that are moving. I can remember dragging old bicycles home, switching parts around, broken furniture that needed a few nails, toys from boys that grew too old to need them anymore. By 16, and the change in life that is propelled by motorized wheels, the nearing independence, the desire for individuality, the poorness that is associated with not enough work, and the need to buy gas, other people's trash begins to look more inviting.
Does this belong to him? To you?
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Sorry.
My first apartment was furnished with an heirloom dresser, some stuff a few friends and relatives had in their basements or garages, some dishes bought at garage sales, but mostly things found by the curb. That stuff was the neatest of all, the things that you couldn't have bought because stores don't sell things like that. My first antique sale, I made about $175 on a 10-cent investment, for that's what I paid for one of those items, disregarding the fuel and time. Eventually, I made over $100 off a little box of old broken pocket watches that I had found in a garbage can once years earlier. By 15, I became earthly aware of such terms as ecology and pollution. I developed attitudes. Some friends' families were beginning to compost, recycle, conserve fuel and natural resources. Some of it even paid off in small amounts of cash. I heard war stories of Depression-era necessities. These older people knew how to make the most of however little they had and never forgot how little that was or how much they had to stretch it. American kids today don't know what hungry or being in need is, except maybe some whose parents are out of control. That's sad in this land of opportunity. The more I listened, the longer I grew up, the more I could see. This world was throwing itself at me, exposing its inefficiencies, inconsistencies, the laziness and dire consequences of having too much. Fixing and furnishing my home, creating income in slow months. I stripped houses, woodwork, hardware, fixtures. I hauled truckloads in from the curb, metals, furniture, books, toys, housewares, clothes, more than any one person could ever use. I tried to sell or even give away the excess. This is recycling. People called me, I moved them, cleaned their garages, basements, attics, their whole houses. I developed a reputation of honesty, thoroughness, and I was doing the right things with the junk. The ghosts of all those lives of the past are behind me because they know I know how to get the stuff to someone who may reuse and even cherish what they saved for years and died before they could do their thing. My systems refined themselves. I hired help. It became a way of life. For years I resisted dumpster diving. Even though people sometimes gave me food, it seemed a dirty, nasty way to feed oneself. A few years back I was struggling and hungry, and a friend took me out Krogering. We got a case of green onions and broccoli. That was the start of never being hungry again. I had began a food distribution network a few years earlier because of the food other people gave me and leftovers from estates, but now I had to swing into high gear. The farmers market provided cases of too ripe produce that needed to be consumed immediately, but I was still buying it, though very cheaply, and giving half of it away. At dumpsters, one can be more selective, not taking the too ripe. Over the years, there got to be stacks of cheeses, meats, every kind of produce imaginable, dairy products, bread, and other bakery items, dented or labeled as cans. Jars where one in a case broke and you had to wash the others off. Frozen goods that partially thawed and had to be eaten that week. Pop, juice, and flowers. Once I found 45 bottles of wine and 4 others of mixes. My brother gave me cases of cappuccino, and I found maybe 30 pounds of coffee beans over 3 or 4 years. Back in January, I distributed 2 full pickup loads of frozen goods from an Aldi's, maybe $5,000 worth. My freezers were filled. Since the end of January, when I returned to the land of being a single man, I've spent $27 on food, including dog food, mainly for tea and spice necessities. That's been 6 months for an average of $4.50 a month. I am a single man with 5 refrigerators on and well fed, even if somewhat hastily. As a child, I was taught to clean my plate, forced to actually, which is the way I started raising my boy. But anymore, it's like if you don't like it or don't want it, throw it in the dog food. The dogs get maybe a loaf of bread, an apple, a little cabbage or broccoli, some sour cream or yogurt, a pound of cheese, and a couple of pounds of meat and milk poured over it, and maybe some eggs thrown in daily. If I'm low on something and throw some dog food in, they sometimes spit it back out like it isn't good enough for them. All this for 2 dogs. Sometimes in the dumpsters I find store shelving, antiques, and even clothing somebody throws in. This is illegal. At Southland, a guard once drove up in a light mist as I was finishing, got out of his car, and put his cap on. I thought I was in trouble. He said, "First of all, let's set up some rules. One, we allow this, but you cannot throw anything into them, and you can't make a mess. All common sense. And no climbing into them. The sign plainly says no private dumping, and I have city trash pickup, so I told them these were easy to follow rules and thanked them. But I just minutes before climbed into that one to get a couple of cases of Mountain Dew and Orange Slice. I didn't tell him that. He said it was because of bums sleeping in them and the trucks come in the middle of the night with compactors. My truck was blocking the way and I was hardly asleep, but why try to make more sense to authorities than they're already trying to make?
Should we turn this off?
I eat better now. I eat better than I ever could afford to do. I'm helping to feed dozens of other people and even have fresh flowers through the house often enough. I'm healthy and my grandfather would have been proud of me, and I prevent that much more stuff from filling our landfills. It's a shame they don't or won't give it to soup kitchens. I actually like it when there's nothing to get because I feel like the stores are doing a better job. Always go out back before you go in to do your shopping because I usually find what I desired anyways, and who needs more excesses in a world of a plethora of them. P.S. There are also deli cleanouts, pizza shops after they close, and bagel and donut shops, which sometimes can supplement one's diet with bags full of flavors, not necessarily of your choice. Do you want to light this again?
I don't know how. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Do you know?
Yeah, that's the longest one of the group. Everything else is like a minute long.
Oh, you don't have a cigarette, do you?
We'll take just a 30-second break here.
Okay. I'm trying to find a cigarette.
Do you want a shot of watered down brandy?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Oh, Pops says you have to get this on Instagram. That's right.
Oh, I brought a cup for myself, but here.
Thank you. Keep that under wraps though, because the cops have cameras on us. I guess we just did it on camera anyway.
Life after the big estates. What we're not talking about here is heaven. Some people say I wouldn't know heaven if it fell on me. As a junkman, I put a different value on possessions than the layman. As a historian, I realize what's necessary and what is only desirous for mere existence in the modern world. I should add that I've been studying the same world currently through the eyes of National Geographic's editors, whose magazines often constitute a portion of the booty derived from trash. It's been said an immigrant can assimilate so much knowledge from the typical American family's trash as to practically naturalize themselves in less than a month. And that brings us to this word typical, which we may associate with the word average, which is similar to the sum of all of us divided by all of us while not submitting to multiplication, regardless of interest accrued. But it doesn't say anything in the dictionary about typical meaning boring or wasteful, even though it's an American issue. Which brings us to the space race and the measurement of time and the consideration of creation as only a device of our past and a means for achieving distance. I know we're talking in big word terms, but life is almost back to normal. As a collector, I've become a savior, but why? Does or should anyone care? Maybe we speak frankly about trash. Obviously, people don't discard what they use every day unless it's soiled, bruised, or broken. But when normal people are in the mood to clean, they weigh amount of use against hassle of storage and pitch all losers, disregarding the resources exhausted in the item's creation. Many people have a bigger problem getting in the mood for recycling that energy and technology for the continued benefit of all world kind. But we're really concerned here with estates, discarded piles of leftover belongings from lengthy human occupancies. Many estates have family or friends, and the only inquiries I might receive would be for advice or transportation. So we should discuss the undesirable junk or stuff so nasty and in disrepair no one wants to bother with it, even though they may feel guilty about being so wasteful. Lucky for civilization, they can call someone like me because it's too easy to put it in a bag, cart it to the curb, and haul it to the landfill. Cognizant people realize this does not free them from the responsibility of possession. We think we own the land, so we extract what we want, restuffing it with our waste while altering the air and water almost beyond recognition. While it was bad enough when only most of us Americans were doing it, now the second and third world nations are becoming jealous of our exploitative freedoms and want their fair share. So as the stage gets smaller, the actors are multiplying, and we're all trying to figure out how we got on this planet so we can figure out how to get off again before the end. And I don't think I said this to the computer here, but my name's Dennis Doblinger. Just to note that, Doblinger. The hunting and gathering societies.
I'm gonna go grab a cigarette. Sorry.
You want me to wait a minute?
Well, it's up to you. I mean, yeah. Actually, that sounds good. Can I knock something else over?
Yeah, coffee there.
How much power can one of those run?
It's a car battery, so probably pretty good.
So, I mean, like, how much do you think it would take to run a 48? Like, we could use 2 generators. No, not like a board this big with a full EF in it, and you have to run like differently. You have to run like a mixer.
Oh, yeah, but smoking. Yeah. What else is there to do except smoke cigarettes, you know?
Listen to poetry. Nick
Yeah.
invited me down just for entertainment. This is more than entertainment. The hunting and gathering societies. There has always been different ways to achieve these ends. One can work for a mundane existence for some form of script to buy or trade to someone who actually grows or hunts the food, or find a middleman who will bring it to you. You could still grow or hunt. You could kill those that do in order to steal their goods, for sometimes that seems easiest or most appropriate. You could allow yourself to be caught so that we, as taxpayers, can provide your subsistence while in prison. You could work for a large governing body trying to dictate how we may hunt and gather and who we may accept into our prospective societies. And we, as taxpayers, must readily accept this because we voted your superiors into some form of law-abiding office. You could do nothing so that we, as taxpayers, can try and work harder and be happy knowing someone must support you, and it isn't going to be your brother or mother. Since I don't hunt, I prefer gathering. In my society, subsistence is provided through the excesses because of the haste and guilt of the other more predictable tax-paying societies. We eat well. Or one could start writing down their stories and reading them in public. Surely someone would throw food.
Yeah. stories.
For the discriminating you. In the good old days, the joke goes, all a bum needed to start a business was a clean wire coat hanger and a mostly steady hand. Sometimes it costs a life to save one. When I grew up, all the best jobs were already taken. Having been surrounded by bikers and backwoods types, and later the nonconforming hippies, undaunted me. Tattoos, people dying or cutting their hair strangely, piercing even parts unmentioned multiple times. I learned not to stutter and came away mostly unscathed. I want to open an illegal scar parlor. Someone would pay for a nasty, huge knife slash across their face, or maybe a traditional tribal scar or body scarring to fool someone into thinking you already had that operation, or maybe a fake row of bullet holes in an obviously non-threatening area to prove they're bad. Perhaps some may opt only for emotional scarring. I can do that too. In this new age of transplants, sex changes, and cosmetic enhancing surgery, somebody would want a hook. I could cut off a patient's hand and replace it with any number of cool grasping devices, and you can sell the hands. They make fantastic paperweights or back scratchers. There's other parts some folks may want replaced with sturdier mechanical gadgets. I can do that too, for you.
Hey Nick, give me a lighter, please. Pretty please. With pussy on top. Oh, I mean a lighter.
Me? I don't got a lighter.
Oh man.
I don't smoke currently myself. You want me to wait? I've got two more short pieces.
Okay.
Uh,
What is her name? I forget her name. Shit.
you want me to finish these last two pieces?
1 second.
They just disappear so fast. It's a hand just put in it. I worry about it. Frank hasn't been there.
Okay.
Okay, I write in street slang sometime. I'm one of the few people willing to be politically incorrect because I think it's important that people aren't all correct.
Okay.
When the Blues become a major player, when the Blues is a baseball bat that hits you upside the head, you know it's going to be bad. When it knock you down, take your breath away, tain't no one happy. When the Blues start to change color, watch out. When the Blues take off his shoe, it's going to stay. When it robbed the clothes off you, the time done come to cut it loose. When your woman ain't there for keeps. When you're losing all your sleep. When drugs make your life done seep. Ain't no time to weep. The Blues done change your mood. And this one I wrote last year for a 30-year-old girl that's been in alcohol rehab 7 times now in the last 6 years or so.
I got a friend who's fucking in heroin rehab, in and out forever.
Do you know Brian Mataszewski?
Yeah.
Well,
His
Kelly is old.
girlfriend, yeah.
Kelly is old girlfriend.
How's she doing? That's what you're talking
She-
about.
Yeah, this was written for her last year. I'm still she's in Findlay and she's doing better at this point.
Wow.
I stayed with her 7 years ago for a while. And if you can, delete this part.
I was wondering about that. Yeah, I'll try to do
program.
that.
But I wrote this for her. I wrote a really sad story about my alcoholism to try to convince her that, you know, it's better to stop when you're younger instead of going into it for long term.
Yeah.
But Fred's austere, lost recipe for baking sawdust biscuit blues. Can't have no sugar, never mind coffee or tea. It's all about curbing the urge of addiction and creating clean pee. Forget tobacco and weed. The unresponsible consumption of alcohol leads to dire deeds. For heaven's sake, just breathalyze me. Don't send me any chocolate nor birth control pills. Got no use for neither, because I'm squeaky clean and living so lean.
Alcohol cleans surfaces.
She was working at Squeakers in Bowling
Squeakers.
Green
What's that?
last year, and that's where the squeaky clean came from. But this was just, you know, it's such a short little story that sums up her whole existence at that time.
Mm-hmm.
They in the rehab, they wouldn't allow her to have a cigarette or
Oh, give me a
coffee.
fucking break. That's what I hate about rehab. I mean, I've never been to rehab, but the idea that, you know, all shit's forbidden forever, it just reminds me of some kind of weird evangelism. You know what I mean?
Well, she went to AA meetings, and they thrive on coffee and
Yeah,
cigarettes.
come on, yeah. I mean,
And
one thing at a time, for fuck's sake, if at all. Like, you know, I mean,
do you want to shut this off at this point, or?
it's up to you. I mean,
Well, did you have any questions
what happened to you?
to me?
Yeah.
I mean, to bring me to my position where I am now.
Yeah.
Do you drive?
Now I do, finally, yeah.
Do you have a vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like you or somebody to bring Nick to my warehouse either later or another day, because I have 5 ton of tarps,
Okay.
firewood, tools. He wants to borrow some of my tubs. I would donate tarps, but I have like 30 by 80 foot tarps to take 3 men to handle them
Cool.
for interstate painting. You know, all
Okay.
the ones they hang under the bridges.
All right.
But I'm still a businessman. I'm just kind of the city don't exactly know where I am anymore,
Mm.
and they have forced me underground.
Mike, what? Go on, like, explain that.
Well, I've got a warrant in housing court. They tore 6 of my buildings down. That third piece, I think it was the third one I read, considering identity theft, was straight facts of part of what happened to me. Uh, I owned I own a lot of stuff yet, more than any one person you've ever seen, but it's like a fifth of what I owned 7 years ago.
Mm.
And Brian Matuszewski helped me for 6 months without being paid, because he saw the injustice of what was going on, and developed a deeper friendship. I knew him before that, but
He's a great guy.
yeah. I tried to call him yesterday and today, and nobody answered the phone, but he doesn't have an answer machine, but when he sees my number, he'll know I tried to call him. And I talked to Kelly about a week or two ago. Sometimes kind of regular, and sometimes it goes a month or so, but she's in Findlay now. And
Is it rehab or is it?
no, but she's not. She just got a job. She was volunteering at a shelter, and she doesn't like people talking about her. So I really
Oh, okay.
wish.
You know, yeah.
Um,
Shit.
but-
I'll go ahead and. Well, I don't know what
you
else
can
to do.
you can look at it later.
Okay.
She was volunteering at an animal shelter for some time and was really happy with that, and then they offered her a job there. Somebody quit and she got a paid job there, but she's unhappy in her relationship, and I said, well, get out of there.
Is
You
she
know?
dependent on relationships?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this part of our conversation,
Oh, definitely. I'll
yeah,
get
we
rid of
really
it.
ought to keep this
We have
part,
someone who's really good at video editing, so we'll edit it out.
because I respect her quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
She did a lot for me, and I did a lot for her 7 years ago. When she moved out of the situation we were in, she moved in with this other guy that killed himself in February.
Oh my God.
Which sent her into rehab for the 7th time.
Oh,
When
Jesus
she found
Christ.
out that. She had to get away from the guy because the guy was totally nuts, and the guy was, I mean, I think the best thing for her was this guy eliminated from the human race.
Oh, was he her boyfriend, or was he?
Yeah,
Just a
she lived
roommate?
with him for like 5 years. But
Stalker or something?
What? What was that?
Was he like a stalker or like a creepo or something?
Yes, yes. He followed her down to Bowling Green, and you know she was in rehab down there, and yeah, and I never tried to do that to her.
Right.
I mean, you know, uh, even though I don't agree with someone's wishes, you gotta respect their,
Oh yeah.
you know, you
Well,
gotta.
don't follow somebody for fuck's sake. I mean, wish someone the best, you know what I mean, and offer your support, but like, you know, don't try to control. You know, you can't.
Well, she's an artist, and I entered my first art show, Artomatic, in April, with wood out of the dumpster. There's a wood shop next door to me, and then I walk my dogs for in a machine shop shipyard next door, and I built these little boxes and put metal shavings in them, and I've got all this material that most artists don't have access to. That's really cool,
Cool.
and I invited her to come back up here because you know our life together wasn't. Uh, she wasn't unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
but I need help with all this material. I want to back. I got about a ton of the metal in storage now, and I don't know how many tons of the wood. To where I've been giving hardwood away to people as long as they'll create art with it, and I want to start bagging up the bags of metal shavings.
Sure, they can use it at the Collingwood if you're looking for a place. You know what I mean, too.
Yeah, well, I haven't got back there. They have a podium of mine. I lent a podium to the reading that's been lost in there, and I'm really pissed at the higher ups in there that they don't get my podium back. At least get it back to the room they're having the readings in, because somebody's got it in a private room. Or
When was the last time you talked to the people that ran the place?
what's that?
When was the last time you talked to the administration there?
A couple of years ago.
Was it Joe?
No, Joe. I put the
fucking hate
parking
that
lot
guy.
in for Joe, but the last time Joe was gone and Brian was.
Brian's super nice. I mean, fucking hated Joe.
Well, I got along with Joe because I bulldozed the parking lot in for him.
Right. Okay.
You know, I gave him. I donated 27 hours on 2 days. I worked 14 in a 13-hour day. They did a $50,000 job. They had to pay $400 for the bulldozer rental, and they got a $50,000 job donated to him outside of $400.
The problem with Joe is that he really doesn't have respect for youth, like younger people. I think with adults he's probably okay, but he has a very different relationship to younger people.
Well, I never stayed there. I just donated the time because, you know, I've got a special talent as an equipment operator that not everybody has. And, you know, construction outfits that get rid of dirt, they're willing to bring dirt in, they're willing to knock it down and everything. And then, so they brought all the dirt in, they knocked all that down, and then another outfit brought all this ground asphalt in. They were supposed to bring like 60 truckloads. They brought like 200 truckloads. And the parking lot has more material than they were planning. They wanted me to do this invert with a V so the water ran out to where you drive into the parking lot, and there was just too much material to do that. So we had to slope it down towards that house, and we had to put a sewer tile in at that end so the basement of the house didn't flood.
Gerber House?
No, that one next door that stands alone.
Oh, the Hoodoo. They call it the Hoodoo.
What's that?
They call it the Hoodoo House.
No, the Hoodoo House is south. This is north.
Oh, okay.
The house next to the parking lot.
Gotcha.
I used to go to all the Halloween parties at the Hoodoo House. I knew everybody almost a generation ago around there.
Yeah.
But so this is a clock, so my reading didn't take even 30 minutes. I was interested because I thought it was about a 30-minute reading, but it probably took less than 25 minutes with a couple breaks I took.
Right. So they're having open mic night tonight over at what's it called?
Manhattan's, which I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna come back, but you can edit this and edit out the blank spots.
One piece of advice is you read very fast, which is fine. I mean, if that's your style, whatever. But it makes it more difficult to follow.
I know, and I've always done that, and there's always been a criticism of me. But and my pieces are very, very complicated. Where some people do a little song and dance stuff, and their stuff is pretty simple.
Yeah.
And they could probably get away with reading it fast, but they take their time. But I've just got so many words on that page that
Don't feel like you're in a rush, you know? that I don't know if you're on the mic. I don't know.
The very first time I ever read, Joel Lippman said, "Whoa, whoa, read that again and breathe in the middle," because I guess I read the whole piece without breathing.
Yeah, well, you need people to apprehend the emotional impact of the different statements too. They need time to like absorb them. You know?
Well, my stuff is stuff that needs to be read,
Yeah. Right.
and I'm only out there promoting. And I taught myself to write. I was never taught to do this out of a need to express myself. And I did used to kind of write poetry, but I write historically based political satire anymore. And my new book, I am in a book with Jim and one other guy. We each have about 25 pages that has an ISBN number, which means it's in the Library of Congress. And my new book that is probably about half typed. I'd like to write another piece or two for it, but there's enough for the whole book. But it's going to be called the Depopulating the Earth series, and it's all about how the Earth has too many people on it to maintain themselves, and they're killing each other off anyway. So why not just let them do it instead of like arresting people for shooting people? Just give them more ammunition. Or leave the landmines in the countries that got them, because they got too many people to feed in those countries anyways. And
well, also like someone here uses 8 times the resources of someone in Africa.
Right.
And but everyone who lives here kind of believes that part of the normal thing of having a normal happy life involves just having kids, and they think it's just okay to have kids. I mean, whatever.
Well, people are too compassionate. They want to save every damn life that there is, and they're killing the planet by doing it.
There's a really good animation that likens humans to cancer on the planet.
What's that?
There's a really good animation that makes humans out to be cancer on the planet, basically uncontrolled growth.
Well, that's kind of what I'm pointing out in this series, and it's really a drastic series of writing, but it's stuff that nobody touches. But I've got a book worth of material written. It's collating it. I have a lady that's slowly been typing for me as a volunteer. She's an attorney's wife and bookkeeper for the attorney, and she probably doesn't have enough to do anyways. So are you staying here the night here? There's where Mickey Fens is up here.
It's close.
On Huron and LaGrange.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I wouldn't know how to get there from here.
Well, it's almost straight through here and a block over.
Wow, I didn't know it was that close.
But there's a church 2 blocks past Mickey Fens tomorrow afternoon at 5:30 or 5:45. They give you 2 takeout dinners in styrofoam trays. But this lady that types for me volunteers at that church, and her husband is an attorney who coordinates the whole kitchen, and he's going to get my license back pro bono for me in a month or two. Because of my problems with the city, I don't drive anymore. Also, never had a DWI, but all my rights have been taken away from me like I'm a non-citizen as part of the identity theft thing.
Oh.
And when they put a warrant block on you, you cannot get a hunting license, a fishing license, a concealed carry permit, and there's probably other things I'm deprived of that I don't even know exist. But for not much money, except I got to pay up the back child support, which we're going to send a group of money through over and over again because my ex wants me driving. And then I have 1 warrant out. I have to address that warrant, and they're going to be like, well, you don't go over and keep the doors secured in this one building they didn't tear down. And I'm like, well, how am I going to get there with a sheet of plywood on my bicycle? Well, you don't mow the lawn. Well, how am I going to get there with the lawnmower on my bicycle? You tore down all my maintenance shops.
But you got vacant properties that you're not even using, kind of, or what?
Well, I want them to take them.
Yeah.
And they haven't. A year ago, my name was on all the property.
Because we need places to go in the winter. We're trying to find places, you know what I mean?
Well,
like
the warehouse I'm at.
Really?
Yeah. Let's see. Do you Yeah,
I got, yeah, let me get
do
some.
you have paper by chance?
Yeah, got it. Let me get some.
Somebody had a tablet. I can rip one of my piece of poetry if you don't find other paper. I'll, what's that one other can right there?
What's that?
Under the butt can.
Oh. Which cam is that? And it's now so wet.
That's some notes from a meeting. Yeah.
Here.
Did anybody know who that guy was when we were having our General Assembly? There was a guy here. He had a notepad out and he was taking all kinds of notes, but he never said anything.
Was it the civil disobedience one, or was it the
It was
tent one? I mean, or was it the first one?
it was a tent one.
Ooh.
And then I said to him, I turned around and said to him, I said, "You got anything to say?" He goes, "No, I'm just listening." And I didn't know. I thought maybe I could get him to. I was gonna like go to him and say, introduce myself and ask who he was, but he's not here now. I just didn't know if anybody recognized him or who he was. Because I'm always also
You're
a little
still
concerned
recording
about
if it matters.
infiltrators.
That's true. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, are we recording what we were saying?
Just now, yeah.